before the date set for her public execution. Deep inside, her nerves were drawn as tight as strings on an instrument. 1 day. 1 day remaining to create a soul stamp and escape. But she had no soul stone, only a crude piece of wood, and her only tool for carving was a fork. It would be incredibly difficult. That was the point. This cell was meant for one of her kind, built of stones with many different veins of rock in them to make them difficult to forge. They would come from different quarries, and each have unique histories. Knowing as little as she did, forging them would be nearly impossible. And even if she did transform the rock, there was probably some other failsafe to stop her. Nights. What a mess she'd gotten herself into. Notes finished, she found herself looking at her bent fork. She'd begun carving the wooden handle, after prying off the metal portion, as a crude soul stamp. "You're not going to get out this way, Shai," she told herself. "You need another method." She waited 6 days, searching for another way out. Guards to exploit, someone to bribe, a hint about the nature of her cell. So far, nothing had. Far above, the door to the dungeons opened. Shai leapt to her feet, tucking the fork handle into her waistband at the small of her back. Had they moved up her execution? Heavy boots sounded on the steps leading into the dungeon, and she squinted at the newcomers who appeared above her cell. 4 were guards, accompanying a man with long features and fingers. A grand, the race who led the empire. That robe of blue and green indicated a minor functionary who had passed the tests for government service, but not risen high in its ranks. Shai waited, tense. The Grand leaned down to look at her through the grate. He paused for just a moment, then waved for the guards to unlock it. "The arbiters wish to interrogate you, forger." Shai stood back as they opened her cell's ceiling, then lowered a ladder. She climbed, wary. If she were going to take someone to an early execution, she'd have let the prisoner think something else was happening, so she wouldn't resist. However, they didn't lock Shai in manacles as they marched her out of the dungeons. Judging by their route, they did indeed seem to be taking her toward the arbiter's study. Shai composed herself. A new challenge, then. Dared she hope for an opportunity? She shouldn't have been caught, but she could do nothing about that now. She had been bested, betrayed by the imperial fool when she had assumed she could trust him. He had taken her copy of the moon scepter and swapped it for the original, then run off. Shai's Uncle Juan had taught her that being bested was a rule of life. No matter how good you were, someone was better. Live by that knowledge, and you would never grow so confident that you became sloppy. Last time she had lost. This time she would win. She abandoned all sense of frustration at being captured and became the person who could deal with this new chance, whatever it was. She would seize it and thrive. This time she played not for riches, but for her life. The guards were strikers, or, well, that was the grand name for them. They had once called themselves Muladil, but their nation had been folded into the empire so long ago that few used the name. Strikers were a tall people with a lean musculature and pale skin. They had hair almost as dark as Shai's, though theirs curled, while hers lay straight and long. She tried with some success not to feel dwarfed by them. Her people, the Mapon, were not known for their stature. "You," she said to the lead striker as she walked at the front of the group. "I remember you." Judging by that styled hair, the youthful captain did not often wear a helmet. Strikers were well regarded by the Grands, and their elevation was not unheard of. This one had a look of eagerness to him. That polished armor, that crisp air. Yes, he fancied himself bound for important things in the future. "The horse," Shai said. "You threw me over the back of your horse after I was captured. Tall animal, garish descent, pure white."